Let's go ahead and we're just going to ignore the rambling tweets.
Okay.
He's not doing well this morning.
They're getting boring.
Saturday Night Live just, again, really disturbs him. He wants to shut them down.
Okay.
Like he's like the autocrat in training. But let's bring in right now Democratic Congressman Tim Ryan of Ohio.
I think he's running for president. I told you that this weekend.
Congressman Samika and I were having this debate back and forth.
No, I told you he's running. It's no debate.
Said you're running for president. I said, no, he's not running for president. She said he's running. Everybody's running. So let me ask you, are you running for president?
Mika will be the first to know, Joe. I've not decided yet. I'm seriously considering it because of a lot of the stuff you just talked about. And the concerns that while we're talking about all of this stuff with Donald Trump and the constitutional crisis, which of course is important, we've got a huge economic crisis going on in large parts of the country. People can't keep their head above water. We saw it with the government shutdown. People can't miss one paycheck and they end up at a food pantry. And that's what we're not talking about. And I think that for the long-term interests of the United States, globally and here, that's a very important issue we're not having a conversation about.
So the Washington Post has started this really cool thing. It's called The Trailer. I knew it was called something. I don't know if it was called like the Roundup, the Rodeo, but Dave Weigel, he goes around and they're following Democrats all over the place. And I thought there's something very interesting written this morning about the trailer. And I think you'll probably agree to it. And I think actually would be a good argument for why candidates like you would want to run for president. And it says this from the Washington Post, quote, "The Democratic electorate showing up to meet its candidates is far less ideological and skeptical than the one that lives on social media. Some days, the gulf between the discussion on Twitter and the discussion at campaign events is a mile wide." And I'm telling you, if you even suggest on Twitter or social media that Democrats consider going with what the majority of Americans, Democrats say they want, which is a moderate movement in the party, my God, you get blown up on Twitter. But again, the Post saying the crowds certainly seem far less ideological. They want to beat Donald Trump, right?
No question. I mean, within Democrats and I think many independents recognize he's delivering a lot of instability in the country. He's divided the country. Most people know that a divided country is a weak country. And we can talk about that all day long with regard to our foreign policy and our economic interests. But yeah, I mean, you know, I come home to Youngstown, Ohio or Akron, Ohio, Joe, and the conversation is about pensions, health care, wages. That's it. I mean, we talk obviously and are concerned about these broader issues in the constitutional republic that we have here, but people are trying to keep their nose above water, and they've been working hard, playing by the rules, doing everything right, and factories closed down, just like we saw General Motors close and get rid of almost 2,000 jobs in this community, and now the supply chain's closing down. That's what's happening in America, and that's the conversation I think most Americans want us to have.
Now, speaking of jobs, pensions, wages, I'm wondering, would you be terribly offended? Would you protest? Would you do everything? You know where I'm going. Would you do everything in your power to stop Amazon from bringing 25,000 new jobs to Youngstown, Ohio? Would that be insulting to you?
Well, you know, everyone has their own economic interests in their local community. I will tell you this, that I will do everything in my power to try to get Amazon to locate 25,000 jobs in the middle of Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Akron, Youngstown, and give them access to 4 airports, a great workforce, and a bunch of world-class universities as they want to continue to develop their company. Do I agree with the race to the bottom and the kind of economic tools that have to be and money that has to be given away to these big companies? Absolutely not. Do I think there's a high concentration of wealth? Absolutely. Do I think the rich should pay more in taxes? Yes, they most certainly should. But at the end of the day, I have a responsibility to bring private investment. I mean, the government can't solve all these problems, Joe. We need private investment in these communities if we're going to lift them up and plug them back in. We've missed You know, globalization, they say, well, in the aggregate, globalization generates a lot of wealth. Yes, it does. It just doesn't go to every community. 80% of venture capital goes to 3 states, California, New York, and Massachusetts. Only 9% of it goes to women, and 2% and less than 2% go to African Americans. We've got a big problem in this country. So hell yeah, I'm going to try to get Amazon to come locate. And if Bezos was smart, he would say, I'm going to put this facility just in Northeast Ohio. I'm not going to ask for any subsidies. I'm going to employ people in the middle of the old Steel Belt, Rust Belt area that are losing auto jobs. And I'm going to show American corporations how they need to do business in the future, how to be a conscious business that cares about their workers, not just about shareholders, but stakeholders, the workers, the community, and everything else that goes along with it, the supply chain. He could be a transformative corporate figure, and we want to give him the opportunity to do that.
Nick Confessori with New York Times is with us, has a question for you. Nick.
Hey, Congressman, obviously Amazon had a chance to do that in New York, to say, you know what, subsidies are not needed here. We will come in as Google has, as Apple has in other states, and just build. They didn't. Yeah. They went home. But the question I have for you is, you know, in the party right now, in your party, the energy seems to be often on the left part of the spectrum. And I'm curious if you think there is a particular single issue that is not being captured in the debate in your party right now in the current presidential field, an idea that is not being pursued down the center left or in the middle that is important for voters in your party to hear in the Democratic contest?
How we're going to get private investment into communities like Youngstown and Akron. These communities that have been left behind. The government is broke. And we need to have that conversation, too. The government is not working for the American people. The Department of Commerce is outdated. The Department of Education is outdated. You know, we're falling behind because of the problems we have with getting private investment into these communities. The government is a limited partner, but we have to talk about winning the future. And that means we've got to have a strong economy, and it's got to be shared growth. We have a lot of innovations happening all over the country. We have incubators and accelerators that have great ideas, but the problem is the venture capital never makes its way into these areas. That's why I've led a couple of bus tours through the Midwest, down south. We're doing another one in May through the Midwest again, actually bringing venture capitalists 12 or 13 of them on a bus and actually bringing them to places like Youngstown in Flint, Michigan. Robert Wolf's leading a great initiative there with you know, the local incubator in Flint, Michigan to help grow businesses. That's the kind of thing we need to do, be creative. And so this broken government problem which is affecting our ability to grow the economy. And I don't think we're having that conversation right now either.
All right, Congressman Tim Ryan, make sure I'm the first to know. Thank you very much for being on this morning.
Take care.
Take care. Still ahead, why State Department spokeswoman Heather Nauert took herself out of the running for UN ambassador. Plus, President Trump claims he's been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. But apparently the White House had to ask for it. We'll be right back.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.